Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I am so extremely grateful to be on the microphone this week to bring to you a new episode with some perspective and some of my experiences with the hope that you will be able to glean something from the words that I plan to share with you all today. I hope your week is off to a great start. Mine has been just a tidbit hectic and tedious, but sometimes, life's. As we all know, all of us are going through so many different changes, be it personally, professionally. And I hope that this mode of communication is something that you all find beneficial as you tune in to Light It Up each week. I want to start off first by thanking you all for tuning in last week for episode 150, Ready, Set, Grow 824. I received so many text messages, inboxes about last week's episode. So I am truly grateful that many of you all expressed how much you appreciated the episode. So thank you so much. Thank you as always for tuning in and for telling others about Light It Up. One of the things that I decided to do for this week, because this is a solo chat, so every now and again, I'm going to come to you guys with just some of my experiences and share with you all, and just to have that interaction so that you can have a little bit of a glimpse of some of the things that I experience, which I think that many of you all can relate to, in particular for those in the audience who are working moms, who again are trying to balance work, uh, being a parent, and that whole job of having a personal life as well. It can be a roller coaster from time to time, believe you me, I know. Um, but I wanted to use this week as an opportunity to kind of extend or expand upon uh, some of what I shared last week. I talked about my experience of just realizing that I can't control everything, having the opportunity to kind of take a step back and be reflective and get a better sense of what it means to be grounded and have balance. And also, to make sure that I'm intentional about the goals that I am setting for this year, to make sure that, that this is indeed that Kobe year. One of the things that I learned and had to really, really pause last week. I released the episode last Tuesday. The week then took just a complete 360 turn. But I'm glad that it did. I won't go into all of the details of what transpired, but I will say that I had an opportunity to really think about what it means to have balance, both professionally and personally. There were people who maybe would not have ordinarily reached out to me last week just to check on me, to see how I'm doing, ask about my family, and I am so truly appreciative because we all know that, you know, that strong Black woman syndrome, and I've talked about this on other episodes of Light It Up, that can really wear you out. But for some reason, as Black women, we continue, as I mentioned last week, of being on this hamster wheel of trying to do everything and not making space to pour into ourselves and to make sure that we put on that oxygen mask first before trying to save someone else. And last week was, again, the reminder that I needed. So, for the people who reached out to me to check on me, give me words of encouragement, just as I can give others words of encouragement, I needed to. I am not exempt at all, but truly appreciative and grateful because I've seen so much in the news. As it relates to Black women in leadership roles and the stress that we endure, all because we are trying to continue to, I don't know, um, show that we're strong and we can do anything. But we have to ask ourselves, at what expense do we continue to try to be that strong Black woman? Do we continue to sacrifice our health? Do we continue to um, work so hard that we are not taking the time to actually enjoy life? And as a society, particularly in the United States of America, that's how we operate. Everything is work, work, work. I just had a conversation with someone right before jumping on here about this work culture where we all say, well, that's just how it is. It's not how it should be. We have to learn how to enjoy life, to enjoy our families, to live in the moment. Because at the end of the day, and I've experienced this firsthand, we're all easily replaceable. There are times that I think back to 20 years ago, um, when I was pregnant with my son and daughter. I was pregnant with my twins, and I went into preterm labor, had no idea I was in preterm labor. And I was on bed rest for the duration, for the remainder of my pregnancy. And what I remember, and this is partly why I in some ways kind of operate the way I do in terms of making sure that no matter what position I hold or what I'm doing, whether it's volunteering as at my daughter's high school, serving on the Parents Association, whether it's any other organization that I'm involved with that I'm lending my talents to, my family, meaning my children, will always be first and foremost and primary. But I remember, and I think about this from time to time, that I was in the hospital, lying in the bed, um, had just received news from the doctor about uh, what the I guess what the prognosis would be if I were to deliver early at the stage of my pregnancy. And I remember receiving a phone call from my former employer now about work. And it was from that moment that I knew that we're all expendable, um, and that the priorities were not where they should be. Because while my expectation was for my employer to be concerned about the health and safety and well-being of myself and my unborn children, that was not their concern. And so I began to operate differently when I returned to that particular institution where I worked and have kind of, tried to make sure that um, being a mom of three, being divorced, where I'm solely responsible for my children, that I also continue to make space and make sure that I am well and I'm here for them because whether they're 19, 25, 16, what have you, as a parent, my job as a parent does not stop. Um, so every now and then I get those reminders that, you have to prioritize and think about what is important. And so last week I found myself just completely exhausted. And from everything, from the travel, from work, from all of the decisions that I have to make personally, and just all of the different things that come up day to day with life. Like when when you have plumbing issues at home and you've got to shell out money, that was an unexpected expense, whatever the case may be. Um, but I had to take a step back and pause and just take time for me because I realized that I was exhausted. And that is exactly what I did. Um, I took a day. But in doing so, it also, in taking that time, taking a day, and then again, talking to some people who, reached out to me, I realized that we're all going through something. And when you think about where we are now in 2024 compared to where we were just 4 years ago, um, in the height of the pandemic, as we know, the world stopped. And we had to pivot during the pandemic, but we also, I think, as a society, stopped and kind of focused on what was important. And now we're back into that 4 years later, back into that hamster wheel, the rat race, right? And if you look at, you know, I like to read about ways to be an effective leader. I'm always looking at ways in which I need to adjust, I need to pivot, because you're leading different people, right? Who either have different skill sets, different experiences, or what have you. And so I was looking at something that talked about the workplace trends in 2024. And the article talks about how employers and employees are heading for a relationship reset. And when I read that, I just instantly paused because I thought, that day that I took was like my reset that I needed. But some of the statistics that are shared, it talks about The shift is primarily due to where and how people work. So, what we learned during the pandemic is that there is the ability, we're capable of working remote and still being productive. In some industries, working remote or a hybrid model would have never been an option. But now we know that we could do that. So in 2019, 60% of remote capable employees spent their week working fully on site, whereas that figure has now fallen to just 20%. And that was as of 2023. So it just shows that although we've demonstrated that, in certain industries, certain fields, that you have the ability to work remote, now we have shifted back to where we were um, previously. And and so what we're learning from this is that employees they now have to figure out how to manage their well-being at a work location, right? Because if the expectation is for you to be in the office and you're no longer able to work remote, or that has been reduced, then you've got to kind of figure out, like, how do I manage my well-being? Then how do I manage the engagement and interaction with colleagues or peers, etc. All of this is constantly evolving, but what also seems to be true is that um, employees are stressed, right? Managers are stressed. Everyone is stressed because many many individuals have been given additional work responsibilities. In fact, there was a Gallup poll that looked at some of the changes that were made in various organizations in 2023. And the results reflect that 64% said that employees were given additional job responsibilities. And then 51% indicated that there was some form of restructuring of their team. And then 42% reported that there were budget cuts. And so, as leaders of organizations, as employees, we all have a responsibility to take a look at how many of these changes will impact the overall structure and the sense of well-being and engagement within an organization. Um, so I share all of that because I want you all to know that you're not alone. So, whatever it is that you're feeling or that you are experiencing as far as trying to manage and balance um, yourself professionally in the workplace, this is something that is going on across the country, across the globe, honestly. But of course, I think with our culture here in the US, because we're again always on the go, you know, constantly, doing the same thing over and over again and taking on more and more responsibilities without making room to have time to actually focus on ourselves and focus on family. We are continuing to create this culture where it is a high stressful society. And we've got to take a step and reevaluate. Do we want to continue to operate from this vantage point of not having sufficient time for the things that matter most? not having time to refuel ourselves so that we can perform in a way that is productive for ourselves, for our colleagues, for the overall good of the organization? Or are we going to, uh, well, I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that we have to ask some serious questions and reevaluate um, how we do things. Self care, your mental health and well being is so incredibly important. I am not a trained therapist, uh, but I will say I study psychology. I am a student of psychology, but I want to impress upon all of the viewing and listening audience that it is important for you to take care of yourself. Put that oxygen mask on first. Refuel and replenish yourself so that you will be able to perform at your best. When you don't take the time to reset, at some point, your body, you're going to break down. So that is uh, my challenge to you. That's my challenge to myself. Recognize the signs when you need to pause, take a step back, and recalibrate. Because if you don't, your body is the most important temple. It is important for you to take care of your mental, spiritual, and physical well being. So, my challenge to you is to take a step when you need that time to reset and recalibrate so that you can be the best version of yourself, not only for those around you, not only for your family and your colleagues, but for yourself so that you can feel good about yourself. So, I am going to put a pin in it for this week. I am hopeful that the remainder of your week goes exceptionally well. Please feel free to send me a message and let me know if there are any topics or areas that you'd like for me to focus on in terms of guests for the podcast. And please make sure that you make it a great week, right? Take care of you. And until next time, remember to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle at LITE It Up Podcasts. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.